care about the Texas floods, you need to hear the news that the New York Times just broke, because we learned yesterday that the National Weather Service's forecasts were not to blame. No weather balloon launches were missed. Forecasts did predict heavy rain, and notifications of flooding were given hours in advance. The issue was that the warnings went out in the middle of the night. Someone has to get the information and act on it. Someone with the job title of, I don't know, how about a warning coordination meteorologist, which is the name of one of the empty positions in the National Weather Service's San Antonio field office. Why is it vacant, you might ask? This position, which, and I quote, is meant to work with local emergency managers to plan for floods, including when and how to warn local residents and help them evacuate. This position has been vacant since April 30th because the person who was in that job took Trump's early retirement package. Now, that's the San Antonio office, which covers a much larger downstream area from where the major flooding occurred. San Angelo office, which covers Kerr County, was missing a senior hydrologist, staff forecaster, and meteorologist in charge. Overall, between the two offices covering the flood area, the job vacancy rate is double what it was when Trump took office. This all points at a much larger issue that Trump and his Maga cult just do not understand. Yes, it is annoying that we live in a world with frustrating, unpredictable problems. And yes, it is expensive to deal with those frustrating and unpredictable problems. But it's the reality we live in, even if it's a reality that Trump is incapable of facing. Because what we're seeing right now is the consequence of his ignorant, naive fantasy, where he can fix everything faster than anyone else, where he can make everything better than anyone else, and where he can do everything cheaper than anyone else. And the best news is, it only takes 2 weeks. Sorry, America, but that's con man shit. And 75 million Americans played the role of the mark perfectly.
If you're pro-life, where's your outrage for the 27 missing little girls from Texas who got swept away from their camp on 4th of July? Where's your outrage for the Trump administration because they have defunded both NOAA and FEMA? And in case you weren't aware, NOAA is quite literally responsible for giving out those emergency warnings in the case of a flash flood or other severe weather incidents. And the Trump administration has defunded both FEMA and NOAA and continues to make cuts to NOAA. So I'm just curious, where's the outrage at the administration for allowing this disaster to happen when it was completely preventable?
As the death toll rise in central Texas from the catastrophic flood that happened during the weekend, many are wondering if the tragic event could have been prevented and who is to be blamed. And at this point, I think you know who should be blamed. So the storm, which was due to be about 20 inches of rain in some areas, it went and rose up to over 20 feet in just an hour in the early morning of Friday. So, and many officials have begun pointing fingers as to why the waters rose so quickly with the little warning. Until up to now, I think you know who should we blame. Okay? Watch this video.
Big breaking news right now. Former head of the NOAA, Richard Spinrad, has come out publicly and stated that he's convinced that the Trump and Musk DOGE staff cuts to FEMA are directly tied to the catastrophic events from the Texas flood. Spinrad says that after a forecast is issued, there's usually a warning coordination meteorologist who makes sure to coordinate with people on the ground to ensure that they're safe. But that was one of the positions that was vacant thanks to Musk and Trump.
I am convinced that the staff cuts that we saw were a contributing factor to the inability of the emergency managers to respond. The staffing was just fine, and the White House has concurred with this, to get the forecast out, to get the watches and warnings issued. But when you send a message, there's no guarantee it's being received, so someone needs to follow up, and that's the warning coordination meteorologist, a position that was vacant.
So I want to listen to this. So, according to the Kerr County Judge, Rob Kelly, who is a top local government official, who said the area does not have a warning system. And authorities were shocked by the ferocity of the flood. So one point to note, it does not have a warning system. Okay? The area is prone to flooding, and transcript from their meeting discussed whether to install an outdoor flooding warning system several times in recent year, but hadn't done so due to the cost. This is a red state. I think where this is the state that the government, the Trump, I think should focus more, So later, Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick told the CBS News on Monday that the state could possibly step in to fund the system. If they can't afford to do it, then let us do it, he said, adding, we have a special session starting 2 weeks from today that I think we can take up and do something, some other things of funding these sirens. If there has been siren, maybe that would have sparked people to say, oh, we have a massive disaster like 5 minutes away. So they received warning, or the Met department saw it coming in the middle of the night. The issue of warning. People were sleeping. So how did you guys expect that people will be, get to know that there's something bad that's coming? So I want you to watch the next video and be the judge.
Oh, that's terrible. The floods. It's shocking. They don't know the answer yet as to how many people, but it looks like some young people have died. Any federal aid for that? Oh yeah, sure. We'll take care of it. We're working with the governor. It's a terrible thing.
What will happen to Maga? I don't know when will Maga learn to listen. I don't know when will people that support Donald Trump will learn to listen that this man, or they elected the wrong person or the wrong movement. First is mishandling of American citizen. This guy literally is threatening every American citizen. Freedom, the freedom of expression, the freedom, of actually assembling is being suppressed by Donald Trump, by ICE, some of your delusional governors. Let's talk, for example, the case that happens in Texas. From all the thing that has happened in Texas, somehow 100 or 90% or 60% points back to Donald Trump, points back to Maga, points back to that delusional Texas governor. Because these things happened, people lost their lives. But instead of this governor, this president admitting that it's somehow their fault, they start, blaming. I was reading an article about whether the meteorological department warned people of Texas. And in fact, it was warned. The caption says, National Weather Service defends its flooding warning amid fresh scrutiny of Trump staff cut. So one thing, Trump when came in, I think, it's all about the Republicans, agenda, is to phase out, to reduce what we call federal fundings, to reduce federal spendings. Now, one thing that comes from these, the learnings from what happened in Texas, is the fact that there are staff undercut. So here it reads, within hours of deluge early of Friday, some Texas officials were critical of the National Weather Service, saying forecast underestimated the rainfall on Sunday. Then on Sunday, President Trump rejected the idea of investigating whether the National Weather Service cut had left key vacancies, and the White House said claims that the National Weather Service cuts had anything to do with the tragedy were disgusting. One thing we know, underfunding, that's the main thing. These guys tried to best of their ability to deliver the warning, because it was given a late warning, I think around in the middle of the night, and the flood were heavy on the middle of the day, in the early morning. We saw a video where there were, I think we've seen a video in the internet of where people were actually, standing on the road when the flash floods were coming. So I think one of the reasons that actually led to the late warning, because there's no proper research. The Met Department is highly underfunded. They can't employ qualified people. Listen here, the focus, people are saying the focus was good, the warning were good. It was always about getting people to receive the message. This was said by Chris, a meteorologist based in Wisconsin. It appears that one of the biggest contribution that last mile. The Met said they did not think understaffed staff were a primary factor in the tragedy outcome, even though the NWS has leadership gaps after rush of staffing cutting. Because what happened when a group of leaders that were actually supposed to, give proper directions, they're fired, They'll start to be their gaps, and these gaps, things will not work efficiently. So that's one mistake that Donald Trump is doing. Then I think when he was asked if he'll now continue, because they're having let's say plans to phase out FEMA, and Trump said that they'll think about it, because I think it was this year that this month, I think, is their plans to actually phase out FEMA, the department that is responsible for disaster management. He had no clear, because I think this is the one person that actually is fond of everything good that is working. He comes and deals out with it. Everything good that is working, he's fond of actually, doing everything wrong. Then there's a lunatic woman who is the White House press secretary, when she was asked how is the situation of FEMA, say the president wants to ensure American citizens always have what they need during times of need, whether that assistance comes from the state or the federal government. That is a policy discussion that will continue. So Trump has criticized FEMA in handling catastrophes, and you know what? Who are there in the field now? Because in terms of actually fading out, they start by cutting funds, firing employees. Who is there actually working? Trump on Sunday approved a FEMA major disaster declaration in the state, opening up a federal funding for disaster relief and emergency work. So he had already defunded. He had already phrased the funding for that department, because you want the federal government to handle the disaster management. But I think they feel like it's not working on how they are working. They want. Look how we did with the farmers, the migrants, because right now he's thinking of just leaving few migrants who are working in the farm, who needs to actually work in hotels, because he has seen whatever happens, whatever he has seen, whatever is happening in the events, that the outcomes of the immigration or the outcomes of deportation is going to affect his term in the office. Yeah, right. It's going to affect his term in the office. I also think the reason I think they established that detention facility, the famous detention facility, I think it is, these people, I think they'll be forced to work as slaves in those fields to earn their citizenship. So it's hell loose. It's coming to bite back this president of yours. This is the famous, baby. This is the famous good boy, the angel. That's also where people were claiming